Hey guys, welcome to another episode of RHINOjoe Outdoors, and today I'm actually in the RHINOjoe Outdoors garage, and I'm out here with my new kayak, and it's been in a couple of my videos, but now I kind of feel ready to give you guys a walkthrough of the new kayak and give you my first thoughts and my impressions after having it out a couple times. Stay tuned. So guys, if this is your first time here, my name is Ryan and I'm the host here on RHINOjoe Outdoors, and I love getting outside, doing something awesome. And one of my favorite things to do on this channel is go kayak fishing. So if you watch my videos, I've had this kayak for a couple weeks now and I've had it out. Obviously it's February in Kentucky, so the weather's not the best. But I love this kayak, but I'm going to go through some things that I like about it and a couple things that I really don't. So guys, I'm going to start here on the back, and first of all, I obviously normally wouldn't store it like this, but I got the Native Sidekick, and it's like the Boondocks landing gear, but it actually has this like, it's like a, I don't know, like a, is it a, yeah, hexagon? And it like slides in there. It's got these pins that go in. This is essential to getting this kayak around. If you have one of these kayaks, I would definitely recommend getting this. It was a very easy install. I thought about making an install video, but Native has put out one and they send it out with the instructions and it's spot on. There's nothing else that you could really say. But it's great. It just goes in this track system. But I think that's essential to making this kayak doable, is being able to get it out on the water easy, and that way that you're not struggling to get it out, because it is pretty heavy, I think. And I will make sure to put up the fitted weight here. But as you can see, I've got my tackle back here. This is actually one of the large size milk crates. And I've got it all set up with my boxes and everything labeled. This is swim bait, fluke, and lizard box. I've got this soft tackle box in here with some more soft plastics with some swim baits and stuff. Really going to refine my storage system, just because this is a new kayak, and in my Jackson CUDA 12, I had a completely different setup. But I've got rod holders all the way around. I'm actually got to get another set to go on the other side. But I really like it so far. Plenty of rod storage, and then you got the two rod holders here on either side, one here and one on the other side. You've got a very heavy duty grab handle right here. It's all on gear track on this track system. One thing that is key is that when you use this is actually the rod butt stager for when you put your rods up through. But whenever you get the Sidekick, you can't use that. But they do have an aftermarket accessory that mounts right here to where you can mount the butt of your rod down. But I've just been kind of using those and simply just like sitting it down. I don't transport it crazy like that, so it's not too bad. Let me grab this. All right. If you look down in here, you've got two clips on either side that are able to put your paddle in there for storage. I heard some people complaining that these weren't at the right angle. It works on mine. I've not had any issues, so I don't know what the deal is with some people. It's got these little guys here that are able to be adjusted. You just unscrew it a little bit, move it, and screw it back in. I know somebody had complained on another video that, well, they're Phillips head and they should be a thumb screw. I honestly don't move these around enough to justify that, so I'm perfectly fine with them being a Phillips head. No issue with that. When you look back here at the back, they did do some improvements to the rudder system and made it, basically upgraded it in the way that some of the steering upgrade kits worked before. And then you've got this little access hatch back here that you can use if you ever have to get back here to maybe mount something on the back of here In the back, you do have these two heavy-duty grab handles that are on gear track, and everything's set up so that you could put a camera mount, a flag mount, whatever you need back here on that. And then it's all set up to also have a torpedo there if that's something that you're into. So I'm going to take some measurements, but one thing to remember when I take these is I'm going to measure from one side of the inside of that inset where your tank is to the other, and we're looking at 24.5 inches. But one thing to remember is that on either side you're going to have your paddle staged here if you're going to use that, and you got to remember that that's going to take up like about an inch and a half, inch and 3/4 extra on either side. So that's why I have this box staged this way, and to be honest, it works for me. This kayak is so stable that being able to turn around in your seat and look back here is so easy that I'm not worried about flipping this thing. So it's actually really nice. So like I said before, this kayak is the most stable kayak I've ever been on. I know the Titan is a little bit wider, but like I cannot imagine a kayak being more stable than this. So when you look at the rudder on this, it's got a much better throw than the original Slayer, which is one of the complaints with turning. And as you can see, this sucker can turn, and I will try to cut to some footage here of me making some turns, but this thing turns on a dime. Now the one thing that you have to remember is that you have to be moving to make it turn, so you have to be pedaling to really take advantage of that full turning radius. But if you're really pedaling and then you turn this sucker, it will actually kind of catch you off guard if you're not ready for it. So that's something that's pretty cool about this kayak. Alright, and this is actually, I'm going to hand hold this for the rest of this video. Try to shoot it as stable as I can, but here's your handle for steering. And I don't have any issues with that. I mean, I know some people upgrade it to like a billet aluminum. So another thing about this kayak, and one of the big improvements, is this seat here. So when you look at this seat here, it's on this seat tray, and you have on either side, you have these knobs, and that's how you are able to tighten the seat down to, if you want to move it towards the front or towards the back, and that's how you tighten it down. And then you can have either the high or the low seating configuration. If you undo this, you can actually move it down into these grooves right here. So it's actually, I started out with it in the high position. I think it's much better for fishing. It's more comfortable to me, and I moved it down once for a little bit, but I'm gonna probably always keep it in the high seat. But this storage thing, space down here is huge. You can see that's a big, plano box, and it fits down there easy peasy. You got plenty of room down there to be able to put stuff. And even if you want to put, if you're fishing with this box and you just want to stick it back there, boom, that way you've got it quickly accessible if you need it. I love that seat tray. It's freaking amazing. Continue to move forward here. On either side, you have your gear track again. You've got a storage spot here. So right now I've got a little thing of chunks up here for fishing jigs. And then you got your elastic there with the tab on it to be able to secure it. And you got that on either side. One cool thing is that about this kayak is, if you want to try to point like right there, you have your sacrificial plate, and as you can see, I've actually got a Wilderness Systems through hull fitting, and that's where I've got my fish finder coming through. Yes, it's an older model, but that's what I'm working with right now. I'll probably upgrade that in the future whenever I get a little bit more cash money. Moving down here, this is, if you're familiar with pedal drive, kayaks, this is where your drive goes. So if you were going to put the drive in, you would take that plate up, you put it up here, and then you let it drop down. You want to make, like I'm going to sit it like with the prop like that, just to kind of rest it there. But then you push these tabs forward, and that's one of my complaints, is that these things are really tight. They're extremely tight. You almost have to hit them, and like I said, it's been really, really cold here. And so with that cold, like when I get off the water and my hands are basically numb, these are kind of hard to get off. And what I've had to do is take one finger and push on the back of it while pulling on it to be able to get it to come loose. That's how tight it is. But you know what? If that's my biggest complaint, yeah, I'm really searching. But you put those in, and then when you go to fish or whatever, you make your prop line up and you drop your propel drive down. There is a little tab right here to keep the drive securely in place. I personally haven't been using that because I would rather, if I hit something, the drive can pop up, and it'll pop up like that. And at least that way that like it's not completely damaging the drive. And now when you're fishing, you know, you want to put your drive cover back on, so it just bungees down. And you've got a little tray here for your lures or whatever, maybe some hooks, and then you got a cup holder here. You also have a cup holder over on the other side with another rod holder. But the new thing on this, one of the new things with this drive is the arms are like swayed a little bit, and then it came with these pedals that are the increased like grip pedals with a sealed bearing inside, which is going to help keep them for longevity. It came with all these like little you know, gripper things that you can install. They're basic little like nuts and bolts to provide more grip. I put one side with them on, which is kind of like what I've seen people do. One side with them off. That's in case I decide to take my shoes off and go full Kentucky style and not wear any shoes if I'm fishing. And now finally we're going to talk about the front here. So this is a lot different than most kayaks. Most kayaks you have one big area, and then you have either something that drops down in there or something to hold all your, you know, storage, or some it just leads to the inside. So that's something different with this. It does have this pull out. It does have this pull out element here that you can pull out, and you are actually able to access down inside of the hull. It has this battery compartment here. I have not put the through hull on this part yet, but it's got a recess down in the bottom where you can place your transducer, which is sweet, and it's actually underneath the kayak, and I will try to get some photos of that. But that's where my transducer is, and then these wires go through and go back to where my other through hull mount is. But this is actually really cool. It's got padding in it so that it's pretty silent if your battery sloshes around, maybe you're in some choppy water. Also on the front you have these rod tip protectors, and as I said before, you can use those rod butt stagers in the back and then put the tips of your rod through here. So that's 2 more rods that you can have laying flat. Just a ton of storage options. So like I said I did in the back, I'm going to take some measurements here. So if you look at the inside to the front to back on that little area there is about 8 inches. The full width, I would say, of the very top of that is about 1 foot. But then like down inside of here, we're looking at probably about like 6.5 inches, 7 inches is what I would say the bottom part of that is as far as width goes. This one is a little bit more, the front one is a little bit easier to measure. So we're looking at about you know, 1 foot towards the front to back. The back part here, we're looking at about 10 inches. And then the front, we're looking at about 5.5 inches. And then depth wise, we're looking at like to where the hatch would be, about 6 inches. And this one is about the same, 6 inches for the depth. But you've got this hatch cover. It's got that string on it so that it doesn't go all the way forward. And then it plops down. And you've got more of these little tabs that secure it down. And you've got some more bungee at the front. Alright, so the front of this kayak is got a lot of rocker in the way that they designed this. And you've got that really nice grab handle in the front to be able to carry it by. But I was out on some pretty, rough, windy days, decently windy, and I was getting zero chop over the top. All right, so here's actually a shot from the bottom of the transducer mount. And as you can see, I've already got mine mounted, but it's tucked up right up in there. And if you look at the contour of that actually this part of the bow comes below where my transducer is. So it's tucked up in there, and that transducer space is pretty substantial in size. I'm going to try to get a measurement of that while we are here. So from the front to the back of, I would say, is about 11 inches of usable space, and then the width of that's about 4 inches for the measurements for the transducer spot. So pretty hefty size of an area for the transducer to go in. Hey guys, so I really appreciate you staying with me to this point. As I went through the layout of the kayak, I did try to do a couple things different, and that was to give you guys some measurements so that you kind of can judge whether or not maybe something will fit. Maybe you've got a different tackle system that you're trying to fit in the back and you wondered if it would fit, or maybe like, you had a transducer that you already have, maybe you want to see if it fits. But guys, if you have any more questions about any of those measurements or anything, you can comment below and let me know. But if I had to say the biggest thing about this kayak, I would say, like, you heard a bunch of positives, but the two negatives would be, number one would be the weight. This sucker is heavy, and I would not move it without having these wheels. Maybe if you have a trailer and you just trailer your kayak directly down to the water, put it in, and then put it back on just like a boat, like a bass boat or something, yeah, you might not need these. But for me, because I trailer this, I absolutely have to have these wheels. It's nice. I can pull it off the back of my trailer, and then I put these wheels down as I'm pulling it off. I can put all my gear on it, and I just wheel it down to the ramp, push it back in, take the wheels off, and I am fishing. So that's pretty sweet. So that's the first biggest drawback, is the weight. And I will tell you, like, when I got this, I was thinking it'll be my all-around kayak, but I really do not see myself taking this in a lot of streams. Maybe like moderate sized rivers, but like stream fishing, you know how it is. If you fish in streams, some of those put-ins and takeouts can be pretty sketchy, and I really just don't think that's for this boat. Like larger creeks and streams and smaller rivers, big rivers, perfect. But small streams, no. So I'll probably look for a different solution for that. And then the second drawback to this kayak would be those little push knob thingies that I talked about before. They're just kind of stiff, but maybe they'll loosen up with time. But my overall impression of this kayak is I love this thing. Coming from being a paddle only kayaker, it's just a different world to be able to not have to worry about holding on to a paddle the whole time. And it's actually kind of funny because when I'm fishing, you know, sometimes I have to put my hand down to correct my direction, and I was actually triggering bites because I was making those pauses. Like, that's how ridiculous it was. Kind of cool. But I was still able to maintain pressure on those baits while I'm pedaling, and even if I kind of have to correct my direction a little bit. But like, really the only thing that I've really had to adjust on this kayak is obviously like all my stuff that was my add-ons. But when I got it, I did have to tighten up the rudder cables that run to the back and just make sure everything was lined up, because it was a little loose when I first got it. But this instant reverse is sweet. Being able to instantly go backwards if you're going too close to the bank, and just being able to fish more effectively. And that's my biggest thing with this kayak, is that I want to be able to fish more effectively. I want my time out on the water to be the best that it can, and that's what this does for me. Plain and simple. I can travel further, I can fish more because I'm not constantly having to use my hands to paddle, and I can enjoy my time out on the water a lot more. And that's my main thing when it comes to fishing, is that the easier it is, like with these wheels and your system, to get the kayak in the water with all your gear, and it's not a hassle, because that's one of the biggest things about kayak fishing is getting everything in, getting everything situated, then you get the boat in, and then when you have to get out, you got to take everything out, and then like, it's just having that system to where you can easily get on and off the water. And I've actually set it up to where I just leave it on my trailer back in my garage, and all I have to do is pull out and go. That's it. Super easy. But guys, it turns on a dime, and it's just a great fishing kayak. I really don't have any huge complaints. I think if the biggest thing that I have to complain about is those little things, I'm really searching. But guys, I really appreciate you coming by. I'm looking forward to 2020, and I'm looking forward to spring and hopefully some warmer weather coming pretty soon. Hopefully get out there and catch some donkeys this spring, and I am really looking forward to sharing it with you guys. And I really hope that each and every one of you all get a chance to go outside and do something awesome. If you get a chance, take somebody with you, and I will see you guys out on the water.